Blaggers. I've got 40 minutes now instead of an hour. So I'm going to keep the last session back on track at 3:45. And I'm very pleased today to be joined by Rick Calvert, who's the Chief Exec of TBEX and Blog Camp out of North America, and Angelina, correct? Angelina,
Yeah.
otherwise, who is Bacon is Magic, who's also coming out of the States to join us today. So I'm very grateful for them for doing that. Now, I don't know if anybody of you saw Debbie Hindle's session yesterday on bloggers. She's brilliant. She's probably the most foremost people who support bloggers in the UK. And she was saying 2013 is the year of the blogger, and backed it up with some interesting statistics. We'll also have heard, you would have heard in the video session today that bloggers are key to creating content that are needed by travel brands. And you'll also hear from people like Travel Bloggers Unite, that's had 4 conferences now and is going from strength to strength, that very much bloggers are flavour of the moment. Rick runs TBEX, which relaunched in Europe in Girona in Spain in September, and will be running a conference in October next year in Dublin. So I'm going to invite him to say a few words first and foremost about his interest in why he bought TBEX and what he sees for 2013 in terms of travel bloggers. Rick.
Well, I don't want to give a sales pitch in any way, but when I founded Blog World in 2006, it was to reach out to all content creators, bloggers, podcasters, and web TV and video creators to help them create, distribute, and monetize content. And within that sphere, and that's no matter what vertical or what type of content they're producing, we had identified travel as one of the groups that were key in the blogosphere overall. But there was this annoying little conference that existed called TBEX that all the travel bloggers were going to. And Kim Mance had started that conference. She was a and still is a travel blogger. She's just actually filmed a pilot for Travel Channel in the States. And she had just emailed 6 people in Chicago and said, hey, we're all going to be in Chicago. Why don't you come to my house and let's just have a little meetup and talk about blogging. And 150 people showed up. And so she got a meeting room at a hotel in the city. And at the end of the day, it was really just a meetup. Somebody said, when's the next one? And Kim had no plans for another conference. So TBEX was born. The next one was in in New York. She had 300 attendees. And then Vancouver the following year, she had 500 attendees. She did an event also in Copenhagen. I believe she had 150 attendees there. And then we acquired TBEX in March of last year through a mutual friend. Told us Kim might want to get out of the conference business because she never wanted to be in it in the first place. She really just wanted to attend TBEX. We acquired the event the day before ITB last year. I got on a plane, hopped over, and made the agreement with Costa Brava to have the event there this year. We had 400 bloggers in Costa Brava just last month. We expect over 1,000 in Toronto in June, and over 500 in Dublin next October.
And of those 1,000 in Toronto and the ones you saw in Girona, is there any fundamental difference you saw in their approach or professionalism or their experience from Europe and from North America?
I wouldn't say I saw a difference in the professionalism. I think the bloggers that choose to come to an event like World Travel Market or ITB or TBEX or TBU have to display some level of professionalism to make that commitment to come, because it's one of the trips they don't get paid to go on, so they're making a commitment on their own. But I would say the European audience, at least in Girona, was about 10 years younger than the North American audience. So that was something that was definitely apparent.
That's an interesting point. And I also noticed, particularly out of North America, there's an awful lot of professional people who've packed in a career and have chosen to go travelling. And I don't think we have that same sort of reflection here. It is very much a younger blogger environment in the UK or in Europe.
Yep, but you have luxury bloggers over here, family bloggers, adventure bloggers. I mean, there's really people doing all of those things, and I think this is important too. They're not just writing text; they're doing podcasts, they're creating video. So it's not just text content, and there's a great community of bloggers here in Europe.
Okay, Angelina, I want to hear. We've been hearing about the last year that there will be a body called the Professional Travel Bloggers Association. And I believe it's almost launched. So I'd like to give Angelina a few minutes to tell us about that.
Sure. So it's actually been a year in the making. About a year ago, 50 travel bloggers and 10 industry players, PR companies, destination marketing organizations, and people working in the travel business decided to get together because they were seeing that travel blogging was really something that needed to have some structure to it. The community wanted to come together, have it be a legitimate community. And to do that, we really needed an organization that would promote the community, enhance networking, but also set a little bit of structure around what travel blogging was. So it's been a year. Next week we will be launching. We are a non-profit organization, so please, if you go to travelbloggersassociation.com, we are in beta. You can today, if you have your smartphones out, and I know everyone does, send an email to contact@travelbloggersassociation.com, and when it's launched, you'll get an email. But it has taken a year, and one of the things that we wanted to do, and one of the reasons it's taken so long, is that everyone really wanted to focus on community. Social media and travel blogging is rapidly growing, but we wanted to take the time and create a site and create an organization that had some thought to it, and also and to give some discussion and debate. And believe me, if you have 60 people, especially around the world, there's a lot of debate about what we should do. But the one thing that we all agreed on was that we should take our time. So it will launch, and we're excited that the first project that we're launching with is actually a travel bloggers directory. So we saw that there was a concern from destinations and from PR agencies of how do you choose a blogger? How do you avoid the blaggers? And this is something that aims to do that. So we are opening up registration to bloggers who've been blogging for at least 9 months, have at least 3,000 page views a month. So the registration fee is $75. And you will not only become a member of the association, but also part of this directory. Now, it is a searchable directory, and so travel partners and industry can join. It's $300 for an individual or $500 for an association or a company. And what you'll have access to is all of these bloggers, and part of this agreement to be in the directory is that there will be a connection with Google Analytics. So you can go in and search, I want to have a blogger whose audience is primarily the UK, or I want to have a blogger who has about 10,000 page views a month, or I want someone who specializes in food. Or maybe they're a US blogger, but they will be in Europe for the next 6 months.
Is it going to be primarily a North American organization?
No, and that's actually something that if you look at the 50 founding bloggers, we have some of them here today, Never Ending Voyage, Travel with a Mate, also their European UK audience, Nomadic Matt, who most travel bloggers and the travel audience knows. But as we form our board, which we're going to form in January, the aim is really to have global representation. So there will be a certain amount of people from North America, some from Europe, and then also a third that will be representative around the world. The other thing that I do want to mention is that we are really trying to reach out to the non-English audience. So it's great because I actually ran into an Italian blogger today who I knew once who was blogging in English, now in Italian. We do want to reach out to those markets as well because we are a global community and it's not just an English community. We also, if you look at South America, there's a very large Brazil contingent of travel bloggers that are very active. So we think that this is one way where we can bring everyone together and also set some structure around it.
Okay. Now, there's very interesting figures you gave there. 3,000 page views?
Yes.
Quite low. So
Yes.
A low barrier to entry.
Yes.
But is that going to rise, if you like, over the years? Do you want to be an exclusive club? Or there's no point just having another club you can get together. You do that all the time anyway.
Exactly.
So is this to sort of weed out the people who you don't want to be associated with, and just to create a business enterprise for yourself?
Right. So when we use the term Professional Travel Bloggers Association, it's two things. We want to raise the level of professionalism, but also, most importantly, we do want to attract a group of people who are looking to make this as their profession and are treating their travel blog as a business. So I can't speak for the future, especially as we have not elected a board. But one of the things that we wanted to do was we had great debate over what the page views and how long you had to blog for. But we wanted to open it up so we could attract a wide audience. Also recognizing that there are some niches that are quite new and that in some cases travel blogging is still in its very early stages. So we may have some bloggers who have a very dedicated audience that are very appealing to sponsors, but may only have 3,000, 5,000 page views right now. That could change.
Sure, okay. Rick, if you taking that point on, that we're still in the early doors. I keep calling it the Wild West out there. It still
Yes,
feels like that to me.
I say that too.
Oh, good. You said it first. I got one. If you like, Rick, if you're imagining a cycle of maturity, where do you think we are on that sort of road at the moment to working it all out? Who the good ones are and who aren't?
Well, first of all, I would say all forms of social media are still in their infancy. That's how early days we are. I often compare bloggers to musicians. You could also compare them to athletes. Who in the room here has played a musical instrument, a guitar, piano, anything? Please raise your hand.
Crikey. What a musical crowd.
And who here is actually good playing an instrument? That's exactly my point. And you guys are not famous, right? Or rock stars. You're not here as a hobby to travel. So the same is true in all forms of media now because of the technology that allows us to blog and podcast and create video. Most people who call themselves a blogger are really just a hobbyist.
Right.
I call it the American idolization of media, or Pop Idol, which you guys foisted on us. So you can't say because there's some people out there who want to be professionals, therefore bloggers aren't professionals. That's completely misunderstanding what the industry is. But if you look at, compare Nomadic Matt to Gary to so many other people, their business models are all completely different.
Right.
We're going to hear more about their business models in the next session.
And so it's by definition in its infancy. I mean, new people come along every day who you've never heard of, who've become either a one-hit wonder, again to use my music analogy, or they become overnight stars.
You have the Travel Bloggers Exchange, is that right?
Yeah, correct. We have 7,200 members in Travel Blog Exchange.
Okay, and what's the format of that? What's the point of it? What's the structure of it?
Again, Kim, this was just an organic thing that Kim started just to connect with people like her, travel bloggers like her, who had a common passion, a common interest in travel writing. So there was, up till now, no formal structure to it. Kim has actually been developing for some time a product called T-Bex Connect, which is also about to debut. But like I said, I don't want to pitch anything. So
okay, fair enough. So Angelina, you're saying about the directory you're producing. I think TBU is producing a similar
Right.
book copy,
Right.
like an old-fashioned directory of bloggers. Do you see? We were talking to East London University earlier this year about developing an algorithm which analysed all the text. You've heard all this stuff a million times. It didn't go very far because they could only analyse Twitter, which really isn't much of a thing to analyse.
Right.
But do you see a future for fuzzy semantic search in analysing traits and writing skills of bloggers in the future? Or is that not going to happen?
Well, so I'm also, my background is actually in public relations and advertising. My degree is in PR, and then I worked for an ad agency for 10 years. So I have dealt with many analytics that try to analyze creative and try to quantify something that's very qualitative. And so personally, if we're speaking on for me, not for the PTBA, I think that's a good benchmark. Would I invest in that? For me, no. When we talk about great storytellers, when we talk about reaching and connecting with people and building relationships, I don't think you can put a number on that. if we do look at the PTBA, what it does is it gives you access to people, but you still need to spend the time on their sites. If you're going to invest $5,000, $10,000, or even $100 on someone's site, you should read it. You should find out who they are, because they're going to represent your brand and they're going to interact with your brand. A lot of people want shortcuts, and there's Cloud, Peer Index, there's a lot of those things out there, but I think what they really lack is you cannot put a number on storytelling and quality.
Okay. Collaboration is a word you hear a lot of recently.
Right.
And in the next session, we will have a couple of examples of bloggers working together to do particular projects. But I think you, as a blogger, work with other bloggers as well.
Yes.
Navigate Media, is that right?
So one of the interesting things, having been a travel blogger for the last 3+ years, is that you do start to see things change and evolve, and people looking to turn this into a profession. So one of the things that I'm doing is I'm working with 9 other bloggers right now, and we've formed Navigate Media Group. And what it does is, because I come from a marketing background, I find it interesting that people equate travel bloggers to journalists, or to travel writers, and I really see myself as a publisher, and that's how I approach my site. So when you work with me, you don't work with me as press, you work with me as a marketing partner. And so, I want to know your marketing objectives. What's your plan for the next year? How can I help you? Who are your competitors? Where is there a match? And so right now I'm working with 9 other bloggers. Our group is called Navigate Media Group, and that's exactly what we're doing. Is we're finding partners who could benefit from social media, could benefit from a marketing partner. So we're not just saying to you, we'll bring you press coverage, but we're saying to you, we're a marketing partner. How far are you along in social media? Where could you do a better job? Where could we help you? It's not a one package fits all. It's definitely something where there's some consultation, and I'm not the only one doing that. Our group is primarily full of North American bloggers. There is iAmbassador, who's primarily European, and I would expect to see a lot more of these partnerships from other groups in the future.
And obviously you think there's a huge market out there for that type of work.
I do think so, and I think that because I live, breathe social media, so I see what everyone else is doing. I know what other countries are doing, what other technology partners are doing, and I have the experience. I also work with people who work in video and are photographers, and together we can bring that experience as a package. I think that's valuable, and within the next few years, I think it will be a very viable business.
It's interesting. We were saying earlier about the age difference between Europe and North America.
Yeah.
10 years. I didn't realise it was quite that distinct. But as I did mention, there's people like Michael, one of your co-partners in Navigate, who's a lawyer. There seems to be an awful lot of American lawyers travelling the world at the moment, enjoying themselves. But they've obviously got money in the bank, so that's fine for them.
Yes.
Gary Arndt, I don't know if he's in the room, mentioned last night that he spent $250,000 travelling the world. He spent more money on travelling than possibly anybody else in the blogging area. That's not a boast, but it's a fact that he can do that to build his audience, and after 6 years make something of the audience. But it can be a bit of you've got to have some money in your bank, haven't you, to be able to do this sort of lifestyle?
It's interesting. I do think in Europe there are a lot of people who take a gap year, which is not very popular in North America, but what is very popular is the career break. That said, when you are in Europe, if you're based here, you can be a travel blogger. There are many travel bloggers. If you look at Jane Gorman, 40 Before 30, she held a full-time job for a long time and then has finally left it, but left it to work professionally full-time in blogging and social media. So it is possible. It's the path that many North Americans choose is a career break, but I would say that is also something that the PTBA is trying to help with in terms of professionalism. Is there are wonderful places to go for travel writing advice and to be a travel writer. There are very few resources for how to be a professional blogger. And so one of the things that we want to do and partner with great organizations like TBEX and TBU and some of the others is, how do we bring these skills? How do we train people and educate them so that they can make this a profession? So it doesn't have to be that you need $250,000 in the bank if you want to make this,
But
your
if
career.
you listen to Angelina's example and Gary's example as well, I mean, she thinks of herself as a publisher,
Yes.
and now organizing with other people to create really a media group,
Yes.
which shows. I mean, to be a publisher, you have to invest in your business.
Yes.
You can't. In the past, you had to buy a press. You had to hire the people to design and lay it out and everything else. So, I mean, there really is a commitment and there is an investment that has to be made, whether that's time or dollars.
Yes.
And when you give that time of yourself, you're giving up dollars that you might be earning in some other place. So
Absolutely.
that's as good as giving up dollars. And the other important part is the open source nature of what the blogosphere is. And again, it allows 9 individuals to come together, and this is happening across the vertical. It's not unique to the travel space, where individuals are gathering together, combining their strengths to create media entities that brands. By the way, most bloggers are too small as an entity for a brand, a DMO, to write a check to. They just can't write checks that small.
Yes.
And so when you band together, and now you can buy, whether it's advertising or sponsorship or whatever the case may be, across a much wider array, now it makes it so you can scale the
Yes.
model. And it
When-
works for both sides.
Yes, absolutely. So you effectively become an agent on behalf of a lot of smaller ones who don't have their
Yes.
own.
And we facilitate because, frankly, to organize 10 bloggers and try to, do a campaign that provides more value than coverage is a lot of work. But, one of the things that I do see as the challenge in the next few years is a challenge that I've seen in digital media, for the last 2 decades. In the early 90s, the internet came along. Everybody wanted a website. They didn't know why, but they were told they had to have one. They didn't want to spend a lot of money on it. But just get one up there and we'll figure it out. And then online media came out and I had clients and, they were told that they needed to create banners. We don't know what they're going to say, but we're told we've got to be in digital media. So let's do it, but I don't want to spend any money. And so now I think we're kind of going maybe over the hill a little bit in that people are starting to realize that if you want value, you have to invest. So if you want to work with bloggers and you want more than press, if you want them to be a marketing partner, it's not going to be free.
And by the way, to that point, if you look at Montreal as a DMO, as an example, I believe it was 2 years ago, they spent 100% of their budget on digital. They
Right.
did no traditional media. And that was to build, and that was because they thought there was such a lack of digital resources that they'd had in the past that they needed to commit everything to that for that 1 year. And now they've scaled it back a little bit. I think now they're 80% digital, 20% in traditional media.
Yeah.
So that give you kind of an idea of where we're at in the arc of where companies are going to be allocating their resources.
I
Right.
think that's a story you're hearing time and time again now in different parts of the world that can go in a completely different direction to what they've done in the past. But it's not really a surprise.
Yeah.
Now, having got these 2 people here, I'm very happy to take some questions from the floor as well for 5-10 minutes or so. So we've got anybody out there who'd like to ask a question about professional bloggers or blaggers or where this industry is developing?
Could I ask while they're taking the mic over there, what exactly is a blagger?
What is a blagger? What is a blagger? A blagger's a thief.
Oh,
Can you say blagger's a thief? A blagger is somebody who sort of pretends that they're to be somebody they're not, if you like.
So if
they're blagging.
if I said blagger, would I be cursing?
No.
So you can say that in mixed company.
You could go around sort of East End of London and pretend you're an old 18th century gent. You
Okay.
blackguard. Well, it's blackguard, really. It's different.
All right.
So we've got a microphone over to over here.
Hello everyone, my name is Alexander. So as an SEO account executive, my job is really changing at the moment. We are more turning to become content marketing executives. And unfortunately in the travel environment, bloggers environment, you have more and more SEO oriented blogs that are completely losing quality, and it's not only on the British market. I mostly work on Western and Central European markets, and you can see that almost anywhere some blogs are completely designed to host SEO and links techniques. So my question is, what will be the next techniques to avoid this kind of blogs to be on the blogosphere? Thank you.
Well, I think shouldn't they be doing their SEO properly? Are you saying that's a problem?
Sorry?
Are you saying it's a problem that they've SEO'd it so
I think
well?
he's talking link farms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about link farm blogs. And
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Unfortunately, it's a problem because you can't really have anymore a good quality blog where you can share domain authorities. So I know it's going quite technical, but
No.
well.
So, well, can I ask a question of the audience? Who in the audience is familiar with SEO and how it works? Okay, so a good amount. All right. So, as you all know, then, if you know SEO, Google and the other search engines are constantly changing their algorithms to combat these link farmers. But it's just like any blaggart, they're only as good as the lock. and they keep, every time Google changes the algorithm, the blaggers learn how to get around the system again.
Right.
So you have to constantly do your due diligence. But as you touched on the buzzword of the day, content marketing. Good content that also uses quality SEO techniques. And we were talking about this last night at Travel Blog Camp. Some people believe, SEO is unnecessary or there's something wrong with SEO, and those people are wrong. You have to use quality SEO techniques, not be a blaggard or a link farmer, but if you use quality SEO structure to your website and you create quality content on a consistent basis, you will win that battle in the search engines.
Absolutely.
Every time.
I think that's absolutely right. Is there any, question over here and one down at the back. Thank you.
Hello, Carlos from Spain. I wonder if the readers will have the same faith in bloggers as they increasingly sell their content in a way. They get
Right.
paid to write about this, and of course not badly, So,
Yeah.
so if a destination has some flaws, for example, or something, this will be overlooked, and then the readers will not notice, and then eventually they will not trust the blog.
Sure, I can
Huh?
I can
Go ahead.
comment on that. So, as someone who's been blogging for a while, and to be honest, my first year I did not monetize at all. So I wrote the good, bad, and ugly, and then my readers, I think, developed a sense of trust in me. And when I started to monetize, I actually share with them. So I do share with them what I'm going to do, and to be honest, I do turn things down. And I'm quite transparent about what I do. And the same with the companies that I work with. So, I have been to destinations where there has been something that's bothered me. And most bloggers will tell you, they'll go to you first. If, there's something terrible at the hotel, they'll go to you first and let you know that they're going to write about it. And in one case, I was in Chile, and I noticed there was tons of plastic bottles, which bothers me. And I ended up having a really great conversation with them about why, and shared all of that. The truth is, that is going to happen. But the internet is very big, and I think of it as survival of the fittest. And if the readers lose faith, they will go to someone that they have faith in. But I will say this. I've been blogging for 3 years, and my site is very personal. I tell very much about my personal journey of the career break. My readers want me to make money. They want me to be successful. So as long as they feel that I'm being open and honest and transparent with them, they'll continue to follow me. Not everyone will, but, the internet is very large.
That's exactly the point. And again, Gary was talking about this the other night, how his readers will, when he comes into a town, will invite him out to dinner. And again, I'd like to ask another question. So who trusts their traditional media in the room? 3 people? I don't. And it's much more difficult to trust a company, a large company, than it is to trust an individual.
Right.
I'm sitting right beside you.
Yeah.
I like you. It's much easier for me to trust you. And when you do something wrong, for me to say, hey, Angelina, I don't think you're telling me the truth here. And you can respond to me right in the blog and say, well, actually, this is what happened, and I noticed these things with the water bottles. And we can have an honest discussion in front of the world
Right.
in a way that never happens in traditional
Yeah.
media. And so, absolutely, if there are bloggers who break that trust with their readers, they'll lose them. But the bloggers who keep that trust will have more loyal readers than traditional media ever could. And when you come back at the end of the day, if you're in the travel industry, you want to sell more product, right? And who's going to help you do that better? Traditional media who nobody trusts, or a blogger who people trust implicitly?
Right.
I'm not going to go down the route of print versus
Oh, no, let's not do that.
having been in print for a long time, but El País has just laid off a third of its journalists. It's pretty inevitable that it's shifting digitally, and as Angelina says, it's the internet. It's a big, broad, wide area, and if somebody's offered a few pounds or a few euros to put a post up or to promote a product, if they're not earning anything elsewhere, they're going to start somewhere, probably learn from their mistakes, and then
Yes.
if they're serious about it, they're going to move on and evolve, I would like to think, in the future.
Yeah.
There was one at the back, sorry, first. Okay.
Hi there, my name's Maka. I'm from Gapyear.com. I was just wondering what you feel is the future, the long-term future for bloggers and professional bloggers. I guess I completely agree with you that the market is still up and coming, but in a year's time, there's going to be tens of thousands of professional travel bloggers, maybe the year after that, hundreds of thousands. I mean, you could argue that there's going to be a saturation. I mean, how do you differentiate yourself from that? How do you feel that in 5 years' time you're still going to be able to make enough money to live off?
For me?
And that's to both of you.
Oh, do you want to go first?
So again, I use a couple of different examples. In the States, we have a broadcasting conference. So, it's actually, I think, larger than World Travel Market, called NAB, National Association of Broadcasters. 85,000 people attend that event. There's only 13,000 radio stations in the United States. As you said, there will be hundreds of thousands of bloggers, not just in travel, but in every category you can imagine. There will be millions of people around the world who make a living either involved in blogging and social media in some way. There's no doubt that that is the future. And there will be events to represent those industries as they're being created. As far as the saturation goes, again, I use my music analogy. There's another event. I'm a trade show organizer, so I'm geeky about events. There's another event in the States called National Association of Music Merchants. It's where all the music industry companies go to sell guitars and drums, and all the rock stars and anybody who wants to be a rock star goes to that show. It's 100,000 people. The music industry doesn't not exist because everybody wants to be a musician. It thrives because people have an opportunity to do that now in a way that they never did before. So I don't think that you'll reach a saturation point to where people like Angelina, who are professionals, again, most people who want to be a writer of any sort or be a content creator of any sort are not good enough to do it.
Mm.
The people who are good, and it's an ultimate meritocracy. The people who are good, and again, we had this discussion last night. You can't just be a good writer. You have to be a good writer, a good business person. You have to know something about SEO and how the internet works, a good marketer, to understand how your industry works. If it's travel, that's one of the things we've talked about. Travel bloggers need to learn more about the travel industry and how it works. For people who do that, there will always be a place for them to earn a living.
Okay. Angelina, survival of the fittest?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. A question at the front?
Hi, I'm Desmond Fitzgerald. I'm a traditional writer, I suppose. I write for the World's Fair, but I'm from a marketing and PR background as well. I'm actually thinking of becoming a blogger. And
welcome.
Come on over.
Thank
Join
you.
the board.
Thank you. But I don't see it as two opposite ends of a football pitch or cricket pitch or baseball field. For me, it's about communication, and it's about the integrity of getting the word out and having a conversation. Surely, it's just a different platform, surely.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But at the same time, when I write, I have a lot of responsibility that I have to carry to get it right, and to check facts, and to put things the right way, and to communicate correctly. In some ways, it would be great to not have constraints, but at the same time, I think it's important. It must be important for bloggers, not just for it not to be like the Wild West.
Sure.
How are the constraints managed?
Sure. I think one of the
Briefly.
I think one of the
Go on,
challenges is that when people hear blog, they think it's one thing. So I write a personality-based blog where I talk about my journey traveling. I don't have facts. I talk about my experiences. I have been criticized for not researching before a trip. The person who criticized me, I commented on their blog, and I said, you did not visit mine, because then if you had, you would realize I don't research. I show up, I figure it out, I talk about all the craziness. There are factual-based blogs, there are news blogs, there are experience blogs. It's not just one thing. And I think there's room enough for all of us,
Yeah.
and so I don't know why there's so much infighting.
Well, I think you answered your own question, and Angeline answered it as well. Again, it's the model has changed. The consumer will check those facts for you,
Yes.
and you'll have that direct conversation. What used to happen between an editor and a journalist, and eventually it went out. And by the way, where are the travel agents today in the travel industry?
Some are still around.
Right, and tour operators, I know what's on your mind right now, because this relationship of direct to the consumer is going to continue to happen, and that's where the rubber hits the road, and that's what the consumer wants. They want to hear it directly from someone that they can challenge directly, and if you're not telling them the truth, they can say, "Hey, you're not telling me the truth," and then you can either defend yourself or say, "You're right, I'm a blagger."
I just he's getting used to this word now, isn't he?
I like that word.
I'll have one more point to that very quickly is, I think it's another idea, 10 o'clock last night, that sub-editors have all been laid off across press all over the place, should be checking blogs. There's a business to be modelled there to use a writer's skills and knowledge and training to help bloggers effectively climb up the ladder. They've got the inspiration, you've got the skills, so there's always going to be a marry there.
Just one thing to add as well, I publish all my comments. So if someone, if I write something and someone goes there or they have a contradictory view, I publish everything. I've been called some nasty things, and it's on my site. So it's there for everyone to see. You can see what I wrote. You can see what everyone else thinks.
Okay, we've got time for two more questions very briefly. We've got one at the front, one here, and there's one right at the back if you're very brief, okay?
Hi, I'm Diana. I'm actually, my background is also public relations and translation. And I have been living in various countries, and I'm also like blogging, but just for friends. So I'm looking for like professional way to do it. And just a very specific question, I'm looking to do, since I'm multilingual myself, I'm looking to do a multilingual blog. And I've been talking to Debbie and Melvin from Travel Dudes about it.
Great people.
And he told me to do it like 3 different blogs and then promote them. But I was thinking about like 1 blog and 3 languages. Or well, what do you think about it? Just should I really start with 3 blogs at once, which is like a lot of work? Or just just 1 blog and just try to promote it?
You know, if you in different languages, someone you may want to speak to is right behind you. Thinking Nomads now blogging in Italian as well. I only blog in 1 language. There's tremendous value in blogging in other languages, and honestly, if I could blog in any other language, I would. So maybe you two can connect afterwards.
So you're blogging in Italian, aren't you, in English? Okay, speak to these people.
Yeah.
There's a question over here.
Yeah, hi. I'm Sue Carpenter. I'm a traditional old-style print journalist, and I do a blog, but mine is very much just writing.
Right.
No monetization.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested in, on the one hand, you, Angelina, say that you're just a writer doing your experiences, but on the other hand, you said you're a marketing partner, you want to ask people their marketing objectives, their plans for next year, where can we help you? Then you're a consultant. I mean, aren't you charging for that service?
So number 1, I'm a marketer. Writing is something I do. It's part of my business. I don't call myself a marketer. Other bloggers do. I personally do not. Number 1, I'm a marketer. Writing is a task. I enjoy it. I'm also a photographer. That's also something I do. As a consultant, that's completely separate. So I
those
do
other things you mentioned, then you've got your consultant
Yes,
hat
I do
on,
a lot
so
of
you'll
things.
charge.
But again, there's another point here on how different blogs are. You know, there are other people who would not call them,
writers.
they're just writers, and they would never call themselves a marketer. And there are people like you who blog not to make money directly for their blog. I would use Wanderlust and Lipstick as a great example. Her blog is kind of her calling card, but she makes money running tours and writing guidebooks. But everybody knows her for her blog. So.
Okay, thank you. Have a chat with her afterwards. That'd be fine. There's one last question down in the final quadrant, 800 miles away.
By the way, if I could just suggest, if someone is a traditional writer and considering moving to blogging, Chris Around the World is a fantastic writer, was with USA Today, moved to blogging because she was laid off, and I think she's a great example of that move.
Steve knows a couple of things about that.
That's for another session. Question on the back?
Yeah, my name is Kunal Kauro. I'm the founder of Adtrippin, and I'm just going to paraphrase a couple things that you guys said, was that bloggers have the trust of readers much more than a lot of the traditional media, and you guys are practically travel agents in many regards now because you're connecting with tour operators. And my question is that this seems to me like it's a huge advantage. So my question is that why aren't more bloggers taking more of a leadership role and really messing with the travel industry and like doing some real disruption?
I think they're doing quite a good job disrupting. Angelina?
I mean, Lonely Planet still exists, doesn't it?
Well, for about another 5 minutes.
Let's hope
And
so.
Fromers and Rough Guys are all merging into one big amorphous, non-print but all digital industry as well. So that change has been happening for 10 years. And we're obviously with newspapers as well. So that it's just accentuating the change now. Would you like to answer that as a final point?
I don't think we're, necessarily trying to mess and ruin other people's business models, but to find our own. I think you will see more of that. I would be, for me, to be honest, at the moment, working directly and recommending tours and booking tours isn't a model I want to pursue, but I do know that there's a blogger here who is going to have a site for military family travel, and she is going to be working on booking trips. So again, many, many models. There's many ways to do it, and there's not just one way to run a blog.
We, just because you mentioned military, we have an entire track of military bloggers at Blog World, by the way, just to give you an idea of how many there are,
Yeah.
different categories.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you there are people thinking about that and working on it. But again, we're in the infancy of where this is going, and everybody in this room who's here has an opportunity. You could do that because it hasn't been done yet.
Right.
Okay.
Actually, I am just...
Well, there you go.
Don't look at gift horse. Right, I think that's it because we're going back on track. Now the final session is due to start in about 30 seconds, so it might be 2 minutes. I would just like to thank you all for coming again, and to please give a big hand to Rick and Angelina.